Hello everyone and welcome to today's new online course, which is about the suspended ceiling, which comes in various forms, and we will discuss at least two of them with all the details inside. The project that you can see on screen is the one that we will use for today's session. This was provided by one of our users, which we are very thankful for. And it was actually originally building for financial purposes, so that's why it is having this office look, because it is an office. And here we will need to create a few grid ceilings and a few plain or monolithic ceilings here. I will explain what the difference is between a ceiling and a slab. And I will also show you how to create these things and how to fully customize these items. In the meantime, let me check if everything started up well. Thank you for joining to today's session. Hi everyone. I can see that you are coming in, and so now we are about to start this session. Now let me just quickly find another project that I'm willing to show you, and that is this one. And just a moment. This will be the one for representing the differences between the slab and the suspended ceiling. So let me just quickly open it up, and then I will start with that one first before I dive into this project that I've just opened here. Okay, so I'm opening up this this other project, which is a sample project for demonstration purposes for myself. And this is here what you can see. It's a very simple kind of conceptual connection between the items. And here you can see that we have walls, doors, windows, and slabs. So those are the most important things for us now to understand the concept, how that works. When we're talking about the the differences between the suspended ceilings and the slabs. Okay, so now this project has a very simple ground floor and a very simple top floor. This is just the cutting plane here, so we cannot see those two walls. This is how I made those hidden. And then here I will just quickly create a suspended ceiling. I will explain that later detailed. I'm just quickly creating one, so I'm just saying that, okay, I would like to see a grid ceiling here in this room. And then I also jump to the following floor and I create another one. This will be also a ceiling, the same auto ceiling perhaps, or perhaps I can create a plain ceiling. So now what you can see that we have the ground floor with the suspended ceiling, both levels. And as you can see, and this is what I wanted to point out, that the ceiling itself is an independent item. You can use it as an individual ceiling, especially when you design only one single room. You don't have to build a whole building for that. You only have the walls, the slab, which in that case it behaves as the floor, and then you create the ceiling, and you're good to go. You already have the room, and you can furnish it if you would like to create an interior designer for a simple room. But if you design the building itself, it still makes sense to create ceilings, even though most of the time with certain types of structure, the slab itself behaves as a ceiling. But if, for example, in our case, when we design an office building where we have a grid ceiling above us, or we have an interior structure where, besides the regular slab and door and window and wall connections, we also have some sort of decorative, acoustic, or any other reasons to create a suspended ceiling, then we can also use that thing. So it has two purposes. The suspended ceiling, the ceiling tool, it has a purpose to create the ceiling as a means of separating rooms from each other in the vertical space. And it also has a decorative meaning, and as you can see, you can also select it separately, you can edit it separately. It is totally independent from the ceiling. Even if I, for example, erase this, which makes no sense because in that case those walls are floating, but anyway, it is not erasing the ceiling itself. Okay, so those are independent items, even though many times they are connected in a way structurally, but you can design them and you can edit them separately. Okay, so now this is what I wanted to demonstrate before we jump into the other project. So let me just go back to the project that I've opened before, this one, and we will focus on how to create those ceilings first things first. Okay, so now all those ceiling tools, that whatever you can do and however you could create those ceilings, are all in the building node of the of your ribbon bar. So if you open up the ribbon bar, you can click on building and you will find the ceiling. And just as in other cases, the ceiling also has default properties that you can find here under properties, structure, plane ceiling and grid ceiling. So you can easily set up what will happen next, what will you design next. And also you can of course create so-called something similar like styles, but in case of the ceilings it's a bit different. I will show you where you can save those styles. Let's say that. Okay, so the plane ceiling and grid ceiling settings are there. Now I will just go with the default of this project. And by the way, should you want to follow what I'm doing now, you can download the installer for this session and you can find the course file in it. Now what I'm working is the 01, the starter version, and at the end you can load up the final version to check up whether you reach the same level. I'm not sure if you are aware of that, but you can actually open up two files in two separate ARCHLine.XP application, and then you can just compare the two, physically. Okay, so now we have this layout, and I will just start using the ceiling tools. Now we have two main different types of ceilings: the plane ceilings and the grid ceilings. Now all of these have three different commands, and one is the plane auto ceiling, the plane ceiling, auto or grid, the ceiling by polygon, and the ceiling in all rooms. Now the auto ceiling, whichever case I choose, let's just start with this plane auto ceiling, is a very simple tool. You just need to start that, and you hover your mouse over a room, and then the software will kind of create this radial representation of filling, and then you can understand that it's a closed room, so the software recognized it as a closed room, and when you click inside that, the software automatically creates that, and it actually appeared over there. As you can see, that's the one I'm talking about. And whenever again I start that, it will just do the same thing. I click here, and then I have that ceiling appearing over there. Now note that whenever you are outside of a room, the software will represent this exclamation mark. That means, just as in case of, for example, placing a door or window, it makes that the command makes no sense here because there are no rooms. That's the infinite world around us. So I need to move my mouse inside the room. Another thing, and very important thing, that no matter how you created those ceilings, the ceilings, when you select them, have all their nice markers appearing, and they are just as flexible as any other item in ARCHLine that you can stretch, add new nodes, perhaps choose offset and make it a little bit smaller because, for example, there will be some sort of HVAC system coming over there, or any other reasons. So you can just fully customize it however you create it. Now the same thing applies, just as I mentioned, even if you create it with the polygon. So in that case, you just click here, and you can just, I don't know, for example, skip this part and then just do it like that. And for example, if I make a mistake, I just clicked here inside the room, just as the same way you can fix it. You just click here, click on move node, fix the position, and then there you go. You already have the proper room. And actually, I need to fix this as well. Okay, so it should be over there. So the same way you can just easily fix that item in front of you on the 2D, and of course in the 3D as well. Now let me just change the focus over there, and let me just quickly do the same thing with the grid ceiling. So the grid ceiling comes with these three options. I will focus on the first two now again. the grid auto ceiling, it's if you click here, it will place the auto ceiling here automatically. And then if you just use the other one, that is the grid ceiling by polygon, in that case you can pick those corner points nicely following the contours of this room. And then, for example, you can also say that, for example, you would like to make this, turn this part which you design at this moment, you can turn this into an arc. But if you for example, for any reason you forgot that, you can just select this item, and then you can just click here and say that you would like to turn it into an arced shape, and then the software will reshape this item over there. So these are the two main manual placements when you either choose a room and you place it automatically filling the whole room, or you use a polygonal contour that you just pick point by point or any other ways that appear at the top here in the ribbon during the drafting, and then you can just reshape it later on as well. So now let me just undo this, because I will actually just go with another option. As you can see here, now we have a few green shapes. Those are actually for the lamps that are appearing in those rooms. This came with perhaps a DWG file or something like that. These are really, for me, those are just visual clues, so that I'm being able to talk to you where I would like to place the lamps. It's not necessary, but those will be good visual guides for my purposes now. So what I would like to do here in these rooms, I would like to place grid ceiling, and in the rest, everywhere else, I would like to place, or many of these rooms, I would like to place a plane ceiling. So here it comes when it's important that the software also comes with an auto ceiling in all the rooms. Should that be a grid ceiling or should that be a plane ceiling? Now I actually have more or less the similar amount of plane ceilings as how many I will have as grid ceilings, so each option would be okay to start with. So what I would like to do is I just would like to tell the software, okay, generate automatically generate grid ceilings everywhere, and it's a very fast method. So later I just pick those that I don't want, I erase the grid ceiling from those. Like for example, yeah, I actually have 20 ceilings here on this level, and then I don't need the one here. I obviously don't need the one here in the where the elevator goes. I don't need, it would be, I think, too expensive to create it here, so I will remove it here and here. I will just apply a plane ceiling, and well, those are fine. This will have a plane ceiling, and let's just erase that, and also here and here and here I need to erase those ceilings. So I actually erase at least like 10 or 11 ceilings, but the rest was automatically created, which is great. That's what I wanted, because this way the majority of the work is already done. All I need to do is to somehow customize it, perhaps change the grid itself. I will show you how to do that, and perhaps change the direction as well, and add additional units or remove the ones that I don't need. So it is faster to generalize it, to create these items automatically and then customize them, than to start each and every time over and over and over again with the basic settings. Okay, so well, let's just see here. As you can see, this ceiling actually has 3 units in it. When you select the ceiling, actually you can see the units symbols. One is a lamp, another one is a ventilation system actually, and the other one is for the fire protection system. That is just like an alarm that is attached to the bottom of the ceiling, and by default the software will generate these if you go with the proper settings. Now you can customize the settings. I will show you how to do that. Well, let's just first see what we have here. Okay, that's the first thing. The first problem is that mainly most of the places we are okay, but we have 1, 2, 3 rooms that we need to customize, either because of the alignment or because of the positioning of the grid itself. So let's just start here. Here, what I need to do, I need to realign the grid to match this previously defined shape. and change the direction as well. And now luckily the software equips this grid ceiling with this command, which comes here at this point. All these are for the ceiling additions, and here you can see the one that is coming with the reference point and direction. So you can change the change where the reference for the starting point of this grid is, and you can also change the direction of it. So I will just define the unit corner. Now these are the units inside the grid ceiling, and I will show you that in the settings soon. But you can pick up one point. This will be the origin, and then you can pick up a direction like this one, for example, and then now the software auto aligns it. Now luckily it also placed the lamp over there. I will show you what happens if not and how to fix that later. Okay, so now let's just come here, and here I will now only fix the position, and later I will go and tell you how to add additional individual units and how to realign them, replace them if they are not at the proper location. But now let's just focus on the first issue that we need to fix, and that's the alignment of the grid. So I click here again with the right mouse button, and then I just say I would like to define the reference point again with the unit corner, and then that's the units corner, and then it's automatically aligned. So it's 2 clicks and you're good to go. Now let's just find the last one, this here, and this actually is a great point to actually talk about the details as well, talk about the properties. So let's dive into the properties of this ceiling and see what's happening inside. Let me just quickly check whether you are all seeing me. I hope you see, and I hope you hear. Let's start with this ceiling then. Okay, so now here, if I click here, I can just go to the settings with this little pencil, and I can say that, well, okay, let's just start at the first page, and we'll go all through these pages, and I will explain what they do. And some of them I won't use now, but I will use in a later part of this session. Okay, so the first thing, I can decide whether I would like to have a strip ceiling, which is like this nice stripes. This has a nice look from the bottom as well. Some offices, some buildings are equipped with this, perhaps with a different grid width. And I can also go with the suspended grid itself. And now this was the default. I will go with this one. If I just hit cancel, you can see that I actually have this alignment, and I would like to also change the location of this lamp from here to here and make an additional one. So I will also go and show you how that goes. So okay, so now I just close it and I reopen the properties. I have all the 3 default items which I got with this ceiling when I've created in this project, and then I go and show you that, for example, here's the grid width. This is the grid itself. Now the grid hosts the railings. I mean, these are the runners that you can also fully customize. I will show you that. You can change the grid width, the grid height, and you can also change the grid direction to any sort of direction. You can also, as you just saw, you can also manually align it to a drawing, or you can align it using a value here. You can also change the reference point. Now this reference point is actually, if I click here, you can see that it actually uses the bounding box of this grid ceiling shape, which is best if you do in case of a rectangular shape, because in that case you won't end up outside the profile, but you will end up at the corner of the profile. So it does not make really sense here actually, but it mostly makes sense when you design a rectangular or square shaped one. You can also change the runner offsets up and down. I mean this way up and this way down, the horizontal X and Y. And this is actually what you can set up on the first page, which is the type and distribution page. Now this following page is the unit itself. I mean, this is the base unit, the default units, that whenever you define a grid ceiling, it will be the default. This is how it will look like if you do not do anything. So the first, there are actually 4 sub pages. The first sub page is the panel itself that you can see everywhere in this ceiling. If I change this to this one, or this one, you can see the changes, how they happen. Those are very simple objects. You can define any of those objects. Those are the default ones, but you can go and download an object from 3D Rouse. You can model one with the 3D shape. You can use the Loft tool to model one. You can do whatever you want to get to the point where you have this this either acoustic or nice visual panel with the material that you wanted to apply. Then you save it, and then you can browse it using this option, and you can go to the libraries to find the one that you have created, and from that point it will be applied inside the grid. And then you can also set up offsets just as you could do with any other item in ARCHLine when you see this type of dialog. Okay, the other one is the default ceiling lamp. And now this is the one that I've selected. So if I change it to this one or another one, you will see a slight change. And if I would have multiple ones, this single one, changing the defaults, would change all of them all around. So you don't have to pick them one by one, even though you can actually do that. But this is a generic setting, so it will change all the default ones, not the custom ones. There is another one that this is for the smoke detection, fire protection systems, and this is a smoke and heat detector. Very simple model. You can either model it by yourself, or again you can just download things from Google 3D Rouse. And by the way, the same applies for the lamps. So those are lamps in ARCHLine. You can either model them or you can download items and turn them into lamps. Those are all the same things. You can fully customize that as well. And also you can go to the units, to the default units of the ventilation system, for example. Now this is a ceiling vent, and again you can just go and find or design a new item and then just browse it here, and then you can use it as free as you want. So this is how it goes. Now I have 3 base units. And then I can just go and start talking about the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and the 6th page. Now these 3 are matching those. So obviously I will be able to set up the settings, the distribution of the lights, and the rest of the system. And there is something at the end which will be interesting in specific cases. So let's just start talking about those. Now, if you go to the first page, I mean the first out of these 4, that is the ceiling lights. Now the ceiling lights, and each and every will have the same setting here, has the first page for the distribution system. Now, if you go with the 1 object, 1 row, 1 column grid setting, it will have a completely different layout. By default, if I remember clearly, if you just kickstart with an empty new project, this will be the default that you can see on screen, not this one that this project has the default with. So this is what you will see for the first time, and you can customize the grid steps, as you can see, this way and this way, and then also you can just type these values. Or if you go with the column, then you have only the cross runners. If you go with the row, then you only have the main runners. If you go with 1 object, then you only have this simple setting. And then what you can do, you can just click on any of those little markers to define where that 1 single item appears. Okay, so now I actually have this. And well, actually you can also manually move this here if you cannot for any reason click here and or you don't want, you just would like to move it in either of these directions, you can just pick that up. Okay, so now this is a very good thing, and you can also come here and you can just decide to go with the defaults that were defined here, or you can just add a new one and that will be something different and so on. So you can actually add new items which could be any of those can be an individual item if you don't want to go with the default settings. But the default settings is to apply the default, so I will keep that. Okay, so this was the first thing about the lamps, and now actually just to see what we are about to create now, and this is something that I need to change. This is the shape that I have, and I would like to move my lamp 2 steps to the left, and then I would like to add another one here. Now I have 2 options to do that. I can actually do it with one object, place it here, and then add another one and position it over there. Or I can just go with, for example, with the row. Now, in this case, I can also show you what makes, if I change this run a grid step. Now, I have one item each and every second step. Now, these are the steps here. Now, first step, 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So every second steps I have one. Now, why I don't have items here is because of the setting that that is here, that the software is actually by default not allowing cut units, which is good because I don't want to cut these lamps. There are a few situations when you would like to apply this cut for specific units like this, but not this one. So it is a good thing that the software is being aware that it should not cut those items. So it's actually skipping the tiles that are actually cut. Okay, so now if I just increase the steps here and just do that, now I can see that I have 1, 2, and 3. So I have 1 in the third step, and then if I do that again, I will actually end up with something that I want actually. Now, if this would not be the case, if for example this should be on default 0, now this is what I would see. Let me just update that. Okay, it should be, well actually it did not get the input that I did. So it would look like this, which is exactly where we started off. But the reason for that is because it is at the 0, 0, which is the reference point, which is the center of this ceiling. So now it is at 0 and it should place a new item every fourth step. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, that's cut. So that's why I cannot see anything. So even if with this setting, I need to go either to the left or to the right to be able to represent whole units without cut. And this is how I can realign it. So there are many ways to get to the same point, but I think now I could represent the most useful ones, either adding them one by one if there's only a few, or you can actually you set up a rule if it's a larger room, and in that case you can just shift that horizontally or vertically, if that makes sense, in that plane. Okay, so this is what I've got with the with this ceiling, and actually, if I can see that, I think this little part helps us to understand that if I look at the top, from the top of the to this ceiling, then I can see that it's actually the same that appears with the green one. So I'm good to go, and let's just go to the following page, the fire protection unit. Let's just check that. Okay, so now the fire protection unit is the default one that we have selected earlier, and that we only have one, but again I can just set up a different rule, or I can just add them one by one individually to any of those. And then here's an interesting difference to the lamp. Now in case of the lamp, let me just tilt it again. In case of the lamp is exchanging, it is removing the panel, and it replaces the panel with itself, which is okay. That's what I wanted. But in case for some reason, in case of the fire protection unit, the fire protection unit, it is attached to the panel, not removing the panel, which is natural. This is what we want, but I would like you to understand what the reason behind is. And the reason behind this behavior is that the software has this option here for each and every unit, how to place it. This is to keep the false ceiling and add the new unit. So it is keeping the ceiling unit, and it attaches the object that you have previously selected as a default setting. So if I would check the same setting for this one, which is on the ceiling lights, I would see another option, which is remove the false ceiling and replace it with the item that I've selected. Okay, so this is why these things behave differently in two different situations, because the default setting is different for them. Okay, you can change them if your situation is different from mine, but this is by default how they behave. And the same thing applies for the ventilation system. Now this ventilation unit should replace the base style, the basic unit that comes here. So and it's only one unit, so I don't have any other rule set up here. It is actually shifted to this direction -1 step, so that's why it appears here instead of the center. And also this applies the default ceiling vent option, which was previously set in the other page. And if I don't want to set that up, or if I would like to add another an individual one, I can just disable this, or I can add the new one, and then I can fully customize it one by one if I would like to. Okay, so the main units, besides the plain ceiling filler unit itself, are the lamps, the ventilation system units, and the fire protection system units. And there is this fourth one here, and which is for the other units. What are other units? Other units could be, for example, let me just pick a point, for example, in this corner. So if someone enters, it's here. Okay, so into this corner, I would like to place an individual unit, and in this case this would be a CCTV camera, for example. I just don't want to apply the default. I just would like to select this one, create it, and now I have a CCTV camera with the wrong setting now, because the default was to remove the false ceiling. Now I don't want to remove and replace. I would like to attach it, so I use the other option, keep the false ceiling and attach it to that. So now this is what I've ended up, and this is just a regular object. Again, you can just go online, find a unit that you would like to use, a CCTV camera or any other thing, like motion detector or something like that, and then you can just add it to the ceiling, which is, I think, very powerful and very good thing to do. So now we have a fully equipped grid ceiling with all the details, all the lamps, ceiling vent, fire protection unit, an alarm, and a CCTV camera. Let's go on and see how I could customize the grid runners themselves. Now the grid, the main runner, cross runner, and perimeter wall angle system page comes with 3 options, and one is the main runner, surprisingly the cross runner, and the ceiling side, the molding that you can set up, and those are all here. You can see with a very specific cross section. This is actually not a rectangular shape, it is more like a C profile, a C-shaped profile. It's here. If I go here and I edit it, you can see that it actually is like something like this, and it's a loft. So in ARCHLine you can model these as well. You can either go with this default if you don't mind, if you just would like to have a grid ceiling above you with all the runners. But if you would like to go detailed, go deeper into this, because perhaps you will create a section and you would like to see all the proper cross sections, then you can just fully customize each and every pages, saying that, okay, the main runner is something that comes with either this cross section or it comes with a different cross section. This is a loft. We discussed many other cases, so I won't go deeper into this. A loft is basically a path and the cross section, so you can fully customize any of those. So I'm going with the default, but actually this is where you can fully customize any of those, and you can even set up sort of shifts, like here. As you can see, one is coming with a specific shift, so they are actually aligned properly to sit on top of each other if it is necessary. Okay, so this minus 0.02 elevates the grid to fit into this C shape, so it is resting on the top of this surface of this side item. Okay, so this is how detailed you can set this up, which is, I think, brilliant, and then you can fully customize it later on. Let's just go and see one another thing, which I won't discuss with this specific ceiling. I will discuss with the plain ceiling. So actually this is something that you can set up for the grid ceiling and the plain ceiling as well, and those are the insets or holes that you can set up. For the ceiling, should that be not just an even surface, but something as a cut, and sometimes there's a kind of box-shaped decorative item, changing the elevation, the level of that shape. You can do that as well. I will show you in a later case with the plain ceiling. Okay, now I will skip this and I will go to the 2D settings. Now the 2D settings are the default relative elevation. Now this is by default set to 2.6, which is 10 centimeters lower than the default the default top of the walls, which is 2.7. So by default, you will end up with something that is 10 centimeters lower than the default ceiling. I mean the default slab bottom plane. But this is again something that you can fully customize. You can change how it is represented, what sort of symbol, what sort of layer you would like to use for those, and also what sort of symbol color you would like to use. And in the end, if you're satisfied with the result, actually this is where you can save this this sort of system as a new system. So this is not exactly a style, but it behaves similar to the style. So you can actually save each and every style, each and every setting with a new name. We actually have 4 defaults here, so you can just go with those and you can study what's inside those ceiling settings as well. But you can also create your own custom ceiling type. If you just hit OK, then the software will create that, and now you have this shape with all the rest of the items properly organized, and even there's the CCTV camera. Okay, so this is what we see here right at the bottom. Now let's just do one another change with the grid ceiling, and then we will move on and we will discuss the plane ceilings. And this is here. I mentioned that I will show you another case where you will understand how you can actually manually reorganize the units in the 2D shape, and that comes with the markers. When you select this, and let me just remove this here, and you click on any of those markers, like for example, I'm clicking on the lamp here, you have this unit options. You just move a copy, delete. I just actually would like to move this from this location to another grid point, for example, to here. And then I would like to allocate another copy of this one, instead of going into the settings and trying to figure out which grid point is exactly the one, because I can see it on the 2D. So what I do now is I click here and then move a copy. So I'm just clicking here, and then now I have 2 individually placed ceiling lamp units placed just as the way I wanted to place them, and I can do the same with all the rest of the units easily, and then I can see the 3D is matching the 2D, of course. Now, well, actually, I think I've done with these ceilings, so let's just add a few more other ceilings as plane ceilings, because the rest is mainly covered by plane ceilings. So I will just go with the ceiling and plane auto ceilings. I won't use the auto ceiling on all rooms, because I don't want to place I don't know, plane ceilings in rooms where I already have grid ceilings, even though actually I can. So the software is not tying my hands. I can place as many ceilings into one room, as many as I want, because sometimes, for example, I just would like to create those stepped ceilings for acoustic reasons. Perhaps I would like to do it manually, not the way I will show you later. In that case, I'm free to do that. So the software won't tell me that I cannot place a ceiling in a room where I already have. So I will go with the plane auto ceiling, and then I click into the rooms where I would like to place it. I would like to place one here and another one here. I will cover this whole area with a big one. Also this meeting point. And then I will place one in the restroom and restroom entrance. And then I think I'm done. I do not place any here. This is for security reasons, is not covered with that one. And then I'm done. It's okay. That's it. That's all the 5 or 6 rooms that I wanted to cover this way. And actually here I do not use the auto ceiling, because in that case I will get a shape which is going around these walls, and I don't want that. I would like to place one that is covering fully this whole area. So in that case I'm using the plane ceiling by polygon, and I'm picking all those points one by one, click, and then I hit enter to have that shape. Now actually here I did not want to exclude these walls, but I actually would like to be able to climb this stairs, so I just would like to remove this part. Now I have one option to add the contour, just as I did before. I can just add the new corner point. I can just add it the way I want. Or there is another way. You can actually select the staircase itself and tell the stair to cut the slab and the ceilings above itself. So this is what will happen in that case. And again, just as before, you still have the option to fully customize that shape that was automatically drafted. So you can just go here and you can move this node, place it here, remove this one, it's unnecessary. And then also this one, I don't need this one because it makes no sense to have an extra node where it is actually only a line. So actually I ended up with the same shape that I could manually draw, but sometimes it is just simpler to place it, auto cut it with this with the stair, and perhaps customize it later on. Okay, so this is what I've got, and let me just go here and show you that interesting part with the insets, with the holes, and also to tell you how to create and how to customize what sort of settings you can set up for a plane ceiling. Now this plane ceiling, I select and I click on this little pencil. The same thing you can do if you right click and just select properties. And then let's see what we have with the plane ceilings. We have a few pages here as well, but the first page is much simpler. We actually have a thickness and we have a material. So again, you can just go here, find another material, and then you can set the material at the top, at the bottom, and then on the side, if that makes sense. Now in my case, all these are the same, so I just use the default one. If I would like to use a custom material here, I would enable this option, and in that case the software replaces that with the one that I've selected. But now I'm fine with the default, so I will keep them all bright white. Let's just change, well, and in case I'm using some material that has a certain direction with like a visual veneer or something like that, then I can just click here to change the material direction. It does not make any sense now, so I just keep it the way it was. Then I go to the default units. This is the same that we used before in case of the grid ceiling, but here we have default unit settings for the single lamp, for the lamp series, and also for the border that we would like to use, because in case of the plane ceiling, perhaps we would like to have many borders, the way we create those insets inside each and every one. So this is what you can set up. Those are objects that you can select, except this one. I will talk about this later, which is a bunch of objects tied together, but I will tell you that later. Now here I can, if I would like to, I can add individual ceiling lamps. Now this is not what I want, so I will skip this part, but it behaves similar to any other object placement that you can do in the software. And also, of course, if you would like to, you can manually place it on the 2D. Now here, I don't want to add security cameras or any other things here, so I also skip this part. But this one, which remember, I told you that I will talk about this one. This is actually the one, and this is the series of lamps. Now if you imagine that you would like to place like 35 individual spotlights, it would not make no sense to place them one by one, but instead of that, setting up a rule how they are placed. Now the first point of the rule is that you can actually tell the software where they are located. Now the default setting is an automatic profile. Automatic profile means that the software automatically recognizes the shape, whether it's a rectangle, whether it's something fancy shape, and then the software will create automatically an offset with the value that you have defined at the right hand side. Now I will go with this default, or I can change it to 0.3, whatever I do, and if I click on update, the software will update the view, so it will tell me that where my spot lamps will be distributed. So I will either go with this one, or I can change it to 0.6 back to the default, and this defines the path. And then I can go here and tell the software, okay, either I would like to go with the default series of spot lamps, or I would like to create another version, or I can actually go back to the default settings and I can tell the software that instead of this one, I would like to select a different series of lights. I will show you how to customize that later, but first let's see the result, why we do this whole thing. Okay, so now I go with the default, I've set up the offset, and then let's just create that. Now I have those nicely distributed, evenly distributed everywhere. And well, I have one issue with this. Those are actually, just as in case of the grid ceiling, those are attached to the bottom of this plane, which is not nice. I just would like to make them synced into the ceiling. So for that, I need to go to the settings of this distribution page, and here I have a horizontal and a vertical offset. Now I need the vertical offset, and for a fact I remember that this was 0.04 perhaps. I'm working in meters now, so it should be 0.04. If you would work in millimeters, which is the default for the English version, you would type 40 millimeters in this case. Okay, so now this is it, but the problem is that now it is, even though it is sunk into this ceiling, but it is kind of overlapping with the ceiling, which is not good. I cannot see the LED emitter or whatever I have inside this, and this results in false rendering. So what I would like to have, I would like to make the software creating holes, punch holes into this ceiling plane. And this is how I can tell the software, okay, punch holes in it, and then I pick the shape, which is much better as a rectangular shape, a circular shape instead of a rectangular one. Here I can actually choose whatever I want as a custom profile. And here I just customize the shape of that because it is just too large. See, there are large holes around it, it's not cool. I just change this back to 0.1. And 0.1, for a fact I already measured these, and I remember that this should be 0.1. You can just play with these values. You can type any sort of value here, or you can just measure the item and then match the size accordingly. Okay, so now I have those. I can see the inside of this thing, and now as these are lamps, they have light sources in them. Then now that light source is nicely coming out, and when I do the render, it will work perfectly. So now I have this lamp distribution. Let's just jump to the molding. Now this molding would appear at the side, but now as this is actually fully matching the side of the room, I don't need a molding, so I will just skip it with this specific one. But in your case, you can go and you can just select a molding. You can fully customize the cross section if you would like to. And then this is the one that I wanted to talk about in case of the plane ceiling, that just as in case of the grid ceiling, you can add a hole in it. Let me just show you here that you can add holes or insets. Well, let me just add this one, and again it comes with an automatic profile, which is 1.2, which is double the distance of 0.6 which I used here. And when I click here, now the software cuts this hole inside it, and then now it has a nice hole punched into the ceiling with an automatic profile. Again, you can design the profile if you want, which I will show you later. Or you can go with an automatic profile. Now, in case I would like to fill this up, I can select predefined, previously saved grid ceiling or plane ceiling settings that actually comes here. So I can select any of those, and if I go with one of the the grid ceiling settings that I've saved, this is how it will look like, which in some cases happens. I can go with this one, or I can go with this one, the plane ceiling. Now this does not make any sense, but if I change its offset, the vertical offset, to 0.10, if I recall, then this is what happens. And then now I have a nice inset inside this ceiling, and then I can fill this gap with a side profile, a border profile. I just click here, I pick up the default border, which looks cool from here. It needs tweaking from the top because it is a little bit larger, so I just go to the settings, it's modify the profile, and if I see, if I can just check, I can see that the height is not 0.1, it's by default 0.15, so I just change that and then just update. Now it's smaller, and then I click OK. Yeah, I don't want to save that, even though I could. I don't want to save that now. I mean, as an individual setting, but I would like to save it for this one, so this is how it looks like. So I can fully customize it the way I want. And then now I have a nice closed kind of box decorative shape, and then I can just go on and keep going with the other settings. Now the 2D settings are similar to the grid ceiling 2D settings. You have the default elevation, you have a color, you can pick up the layer where you would like to place it, and you can choose the symbolic view or any other view types that you have here. Let's just go with an OK, and let's just check if I like this result or not. I'm just switching between the views that I have, and this is actually a nice one. I think this is what I wanted. So this is cool. We're good to go, and let's talk about the rest of these ceilings. Now, before I head on to the final ceiling, which will be the one above us with some custom shapes, custom profiles, I just would like to show you a little bit more about more detailed about the lamp distribution. Here, actually, I have two lamp rows, two series of lamps distributed along this path and this path, and I can not only pick a profile from within the settings of the plane ceiling, but I can also use the plane ceiling local menu, and I can say that, okay, I would like to add elements, and I would like to add a series of lamps, multiple lamps, and then I can pick the one, I'm just choosing the same one. I can pick the one that I used before, and I just pick the first and the last point of this path, hit enter, and then I have a default one. I will customize this. And then I go here again, and then I choose the one add elements, and add multiple lamps. Again, the same one, and from this point to this point, and enter, and then I have those two. And then now I can go to the details, to the settings. Let's just see. Okay, this needs some tweaking, but other than that, I already have those two distributed lamp series. And now let's just go into the details, and let's see what sort of settings you can set up. Now, again, obviously, just as in case of the previous setting, you can just decide to work on this one and say that you would like to sync them. Now, the vertical offset would be 0.04. Yeah, well, actually, I'm working on that one, but I will fix this as well. And then I would like to add holes, circular ones, with the width and height of 0.1 and 0.1. This is it. That's cool. And let's just repeat with this one. Okay, so now how can I switch to that one? Why did I add this one first? Now, when you have multiple items added to the ceiling, or this actually happens with many other dialogues that look the same, you can actually either switch between the existing ones using this navigator here, or you can just directly click on the one that you would like to add it on the path, and then it gets red, and that means you are actually working on that one. That is the selected one. Okay, so here again, let me just repeat the previous steps. It is 0.04, and the hole should be circular, and 0.1 and 0.1. Okay, now there is one thing that I need to customize, and that is the number of lamps that I have here. And this is something that you can customize when you go to the settings of this distribution with the pencil here. So now this is not one single item, this is a series of lamps, and now I show you how you can customize it. If you click here, you can tell the software that the lighting itself, which is a series of objects, series of lamps, should be made of these items. If I change it to this one or this one or this one, see, this is how it changes. Also, if I would like to, I can set up a railing that hosts these. Now I don't have any railing, so I don't want. And then I can also go here, and then I can set up, and this is the most important part for our session, and I can set up the distribution rules. And the first rule is to enable lamps along the path. Now my path is from here to here, and if I disable that, I won't see that single lamp inside. Now, why those two appear? These appear because I enabled them on nodes, and I enabled them on endpoints. And this is what I end up with, the line that I've designed before. So I can add the lamps on the path, which results with one single item, or I can add any of those at the endpoints, or I can just skip the one inside. Now the rest I will talk about a little bit later with this one, but now I just wanted to edit this one, and I just wanted to add the one to the beginning and one to the end points of this path. Okay, so let's just go with an okay. Well, I edited the wrong one, sorry. So let me just repeat this here, and then I go back here and fix this. Okay, so what did I do? I just clicked here, I moved here, and I just disabled the ones inside the path. Okay, great, yes. And then now I move here, and here, what I would like to do, let me just check the 2D drawing. I would like to have 1, 2, 3 items in the path. So I have a specific amount that I would like to see here. And if I go back here and I just change the distribution rules, I'm selecting this one, editing the rules, and then when I go back to the settings, I'm sorry, this is not the one that I wanted to do. It's this one, and then yeah, this one, and then spotlights, and then edit them. Yeah, this is it. So now the default rule here is that the software is telling me that the default was it is distributing items at a certain distance. So you have two options. You have an option to add items with a certain distance, or you have an option to add a specific number of items. So if I would go with this one or this one, the software would apply the amount of lights, the amount of lamps along my path that is designed on the drawing. Now this is a miniature. This is not the real path, but this is where I can edit it. So I can just say that I know that I want it to have 3, and then I just hit OK, yes, and then now I end up with the proper layout. So you can do one or the other way. You can change the distances, or you can change the amount of lamps inside the distributed path. Let's just go with an OK. And then just before I move on, the last thing here is that if I click here and I added this path, just to show you another example, this here comes with the extra, let's just go with this one. Yeah, with an extra thing that is with the distributed lamps on the nodes. Now what are nodes? Yeah, nodes are the corner points. Those are the nodes. Okay, so this is how you can remove them from the nodes. Okay, I don't do that, but this is how you can do that. So now I think everything is clear. I discussed everything about these things, and let's just use this knowledge and do something fully customized in case of this one, because we have a very fancy path here. We have 2 insets with a very irregular shape, and now I show you how to do that. Let's just focus on the insets first. Now I just use the settings again, and I go and jump into the holes and the insets. And what I would like to do, I would like to add one, but instead of using the automatic profile, I just would like to create a new one, define a profile. And then I can just either draw the profile on the drawing, or I can pick a closed loop. I have a closed loop, so I just click inside the closed loop, and then the software recognizes that. Cool, I just add it, and then I will apply an inset in it. I just use the same thing that I used before. I would like to add the plane inset into that. It is filled now nicely, and then I would like to apply an offset, which will be 0.3 for example, sorry, but in that case this will be a negative offset. So you can actually use negative offsets. In that case you can do something like this, and you can even add the border offset 0.3. Let's just apply the same, and in the case you can enlarge or shrink it based on the previously selected size. Okay, so now this will be larger, and it will also have a side panel which is with the same that we used before. It's a simple border, but again I need to place it to the proper position, as it will sit on top of this one, and it was sunken 30 centimeters below, and it for a fact I know that it's 2 centimeters. I will just use a vertical offset of 28 centimeters, so it is 0.28, and of course it's in a negative direction. And then also I just would like to apply its height. I would like to change it from the default 15 centimeters to 28. Yes. And then I have that. This is okay, and I also would like to apply a horizontal offset, which will be 0.3, and then I have this box here. Nice. I actually have a few things here, a little space for the MEP and electric design systems and so on. Okay, so now let's just repeat this step for the other one. There's a round one here. Let's just go and add the new one. This will be another custom shape. This will be another profile, and then I pick this one, and again I can go with the closed loop, or I can go with the circle with the center point. And then yep, let's just add it here, and then actually it inherited the previous settings, which is okay for me. I only would like to change one thing here. I just would like to reset the offset of this vertical panel bit, because this should actually follow the original contour. So let's just go and find that. It's here, and instead of a horizontal offset of 0.3, I will apply 0. So this is what I end up with. This is absolutely custom made for the specific purposes of this room, picking up custom profiles and adding custom details. Okay, let's just hit OK and see what happened. And let me just turn around. I think it's here. That's nice. This is what I wanted to have. This is a nice shape at the top of the ceiling, and this is the one we have here. And the last step that I would like to do is that I would like to follow that fancy path on the 2D drawing, and I would like to distribute lamps around this item following the lead back to the office. This one. Okay, so I just go here and I hit properties, go into the properties. You might already guess that I will use this page, and instead of the automatic profile, I again define a new profile, and I will pick this profile, and instead of trying to match my polygon here, and well, this is not a closed loop, so I cannot use that, but I have another one which is for the open paths like this. I can select this item, so I can click on this one and select this one. So now the software recognized that shape, ran around along this path, recognized it, and it gives me that here. And then when I click OK, create it, distribute the lamps, then I only have the last step that I wanted to do is to, you know, nest it into this ceiling. And then this is what I do. I just use the 0.04. I think this was the proper value, and then I punch holes wherever I need them, and those will be circular shapes with 0.1 and 0.1. I'm just repeating myself, but this is how it ends up. This is a very nice one, and actually I can later change this path if I want. If I hit OK, then now I have that, which is nicely distributed, and that's it. That's what I wanted to show you today. We dived into the details of the grid ceilings, and we also dived very deeply into the settings of the grid ceiling, the plane ceiling as well. Now you know how to make the arrangement that you would like to. Now you know how to add holes, how to distribute lamps into any of those, how to move units in the grid ceiling, and how to add custom shaped, for example, insets or decorative items like just as we have in above us. There's actually a reception here. This is why we have this decorative item here. And this is how you can create your either grid ceilings or the plane ceilings. Now, to summarize what we had at the very beginning, and this is also an important thing, that the ceiling itself is an individual item on its own, which is usually connected with the slab, but you don't need to have a slab for that to be able to represent it. Because, for example, in such a case when I only have one level and I didn't want to work with the rest of the building, I can just go with this one. This will be still okay for interior design purposes, but if I'm an architect and I would like to add the rest of the building, I can do it. That's my choice. It really depends on the design. So I hope you like this very powerful tool. It allows you to create very detailed either decorative or acoustic or thermal ceiling systems that you would like to add to your design. And should you have any questions, please hit me in the question in the chat bar. And while that happens, let me just show you what comes next. So today we had this suspended ceiling session, and the next time, which we will skip 1 week, and 2 weeks later we will have the following one, which is about the curtain walls, and then we will finish the advanced course session with the frame walls. Both are very interesting topics if you design curtain walls and framed walls, and if you would like to know the details how to customize these items and actually just how to create them and how to make them look the way you want, then you should head to these sessions as well. If you like this content, what we had today, please like us and subscribe to our channel, and let's see whether we have a question. Now today we don't have any questions, so I hope it was clear. But if you just watch this show later at any time, and when it's not live, let's just say that you can leave a comment in the comment below, and we will answer you there as well. Or you can send an email to info@CADline.hu or info@ARCHLine.XP.com, and then we will give you the proper answer. I hope you like this content, and you will be able to use it for your designs in the future. And this is what I wanted to show you. It was nice to be here. See you 2 weeks later in this advanced course session. Goodbye.